I just want to say to the girls out there that like can relate to what I've said is like, find a group of people or find somebody that you can lean into whenever you need help, because I feel like I was holding on to so much for so long, and like having this kind of guidance, having this community has been so valuable in my life that, you know, I'm just so appreciative. So I just wanted to say that.
Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello. In this podcast episode, I am interviewing two of my clients all about how they made one shift in their life, and that shift was changing the way they view themselves. Like, if there's the opinion that matters the most in life, it's the opinion that you have of yourself, right? Because we can't control the opinions that other people have of us, even though culturally we keep hearing like, oh my gosh, ¿qué va a decir la gente? And maybe we were conditioned to filter that and think about that. The truth is that the main opinion that matters is the one that you have of yourself, because this is the opinion that's going to determine how you show up in the world. It's going to determine what risks you take. It's going to determine how much courage you practice. I mean, there's so many things there, right? And this podcast, we talk so much about courage, especially because obviously I have a program named Courage Driven Latina, and the two women that I'm talking to are currently students of Courage Driven Latina. They've been in it for about 6 months. And one big message that I just want to like share to all of you is that if you're listening to this podcast, if you identify as Latina, if you identify as first gen, second gen, or an immigrant, or if you have immigrant parents, if you have gone through a divorce, gone through a breakup, put in your 2-week notice, had a child, had a difficult conversation, started a new job, gone to a new school, then you know how to practice courage. You already know. You are already courageous. It's just about intentionally practicing courage, but it's not like you need to learn how to be courageous when you already are. It's more about being able to channel in that courage to what it is that you want to do, and it's already there. It's already in you. So what we talk about in this podcast episode is just that one shift of changing the way they viewed themselves and how that allowed them to practice courage in such a beautiful way. And if you're listening to this on the day that the podcast is released, we are closing doors for my group program, Courage Driven Latina, tomorrow. So this is your last chance. We will not open doors again for months, like probably until fall of this year. So if you know that you want to join this program, do not wait, because by the time we open doors again in fall, you could have already executed 1 or 2 courage projects in the program. I mean, imagine already having either a business or a podcast or just double the amount of confidence by the time we open doors again. By the time we open doors again for other people, I mean, you'll still be in the program because it's a 12-month program. You'll be working on a 2nd or 3rd courage project. How amazing is that? So let's go ahead and get into this interview, because I do think that they share very relatable stories and important messages. And then I'm going to answer some questions at the end of this episode with just frequently asked questions that I received from folks during this enrollment period. And if you're listening to this after the fact, you could go to couragedrivenlatina.com and join the wait list so that whenever we open doors again in the future. But if you are debating joining this round, stick around for those questions that I'm going to answer at the end of the episode. Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of Chingona Revolution. I have 2 amazing guests here with me whom I've had the honor of supporting over the last 7 or 8 months or so. And it's really been incredible to watch them have one major shift that has shifted so many other things in their lives as well. And that major shift is shifting the way that they view themselves. And I think I've said this before on the podcast, but if you can change one thing, I would recommend changing the way that you view yourself, because the way you view yourself dictates what opportunities you're going to put yourself in, when you're going to advocate for yourself, how it is that you speak to yourself, and how you speak to yourself and how you view yourself also directly influences how others see you, how others treat you. And really just in the last months of watching these two women bloom into who they are, it's been amazing. And they've been able to support one another, or they've been able to witness one another's growth as well. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how shifting the way that you view yourself changes your world, right? So it's like change the way you look at things, and the things you see will change. So Areli, can you please, well, actually first, welcome back to the podcast. Can you please just quickly introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Thank you so much, Erica, for inviting me. That's the first thing. And so, hi, everyone. So I'm Anahi Cruz-Sanchez. I'm a Ph.D. student in Behavioural Neuroscience. I'm in my 7th year. I'm going to graduate finally. That's one of the big boundaries I've been setting, like try to set the boundaries to graduate. And I'm a first-gen Salvadorian, and I live in Toronto, Canada. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you and your sister have made the program international because you're in Canada. Amazing. Areli, can you tell us, why did you join Courage Driven Latina? I remember our consult call and everything. So, but tell the audience what was your situation like, and why did you choose to join?
Okay, so basically before Courage Driven Latina, I was dedicating myself full blown to my PhD. Want to say that I've always been a people-pleasing introvert. I'm no longer trying to be that person, but that being said, I never had a good work-life balance at all. Like once I started I was the first graduate student for my supervisor, and I put all my life and soul into it. And it wasn't my first choice when I decided to do my PhD. So the past 7 years, I became her right-hand woman. I helped establish her lab. I had long days in which I just worked constantly 24/7 for at least 3 months. And I was beginning to lose a sense of self because I felt like I was just thinking about others, doing what other people wanted me to do, specifically my supervisor, just helping her with her career, and putting my well-being on the side. But at that time, I didn't know that. So the past 7 years, I literally just felt like I was going numb because of just doing and not really feeling a sense of okay, what am I doing? So much so that I would get angry randomly. I would cry driving from campus to home, not really knowing why. And I just had bursts of just moments where I felt like I needed to do something that was a unique choice of mine. So I would randomly dye my hair or just get a piercing, but I didn't have a sense of I didn't feel happy at all with my situation. But then, my sister, Tania, having been enrolled in Courage Driven Latina for some time, was introducing, and another thing as well, both my sister and I come from a background where it's you got to keep on working. You got to be the hardest person working in the room. You got to be always on your feet because if not, you're going to get fired. So basically putting your job first versus anything else. So when we had conversations at home, my sister started having these changes in which she brought her opinion out more. She advocated for herself, because usually when we discuss as a family, it's true, I feel like my parents tend to dominate more so my father. So we just, we were omissive and just not saying anything. But there was a change in which she would cry, which was something that we would definitely never do when discussing anything in the house. Just the sense of emotions, recognizing your emotions and just talking about it with the family, right? When I saw that in her, at first I confess I was one of those people that thought feelings, no, you just got to do your stuff and just move forward. There's no need to do that. But I felt like I was called towards doing that. So she recommended, why don't you see one of Erica's, online presentations and just check it out. So okay, because I felt so desperate at the time because I felt so numb and I didn't know what was going on. I felt clueless. And then when I saw the examples that you gave of the people that underwent the program and the prompts and the questions and the way you explain things, I felt so identified. And that was the thing that I felt lacking, because in my whole environment before Courage Driven Latina, without the community, all I felt was you got to hustle, you got to put science first. There wasn't no sort of example of just embracing self-care. And then from there, that's the reason why I decided to take it, because I'm just like, this is something I want to just jump into, because I just felt like I needed some change in my life, some clarity. And yeah, that's really it. And I really, really feel like it strengthened my bond with my sister a lot, just like the change that she introduced. Yeah.
I love it. And you and your sister were on that podcast together. I'll have my team link the podcast episode down below in the show notes, because I think it's a beautiful episode of like how you can bring your loved ones along your healing journey with you, and like along your goal setting journey, and just get so much closer to them. And that has just like been beautiful to watch you and your sister, and also like for you two to have a language that you can speak to one another and know similar tools that you can help each other with. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
You had also, whenever we checked in with you a few months in after joining, we asked you if you had any feedback, right? We were first like, okay, what have your results been and how do you feel? And you said, the program's been extremely helpful. I have felt that it's really not only helped me with my career goals, but most importantly, it's helped me with my habits, my thoughts, and I never thought that I would be able to change them for the better. And then you continued to say, when we asked if you had feedback, you said, I had doubts enrolling because I thought I wasn't ready, but I don't regret it a single bit. I cannot stress how eye-opening this process has been so far with regards to myself and living a life where I am directing towards what makes me feel fulfilled. Let me come back to your face. Oh, there we go. How does it like feel to hear that back? Knowing that you were doubting it first and now it's like who are you now?
Oh, I honestly, like, I don't know where I would be right now if I didn't have like the program with me, because just the simple thought of just having the community, first of all, that's the amazing part about it, but also just the techniques and the strategies. Hearing the feedback just reminds me of, just once again, like how grateful I am to be able to have like said yes to the program, because I felt like before then I had zero self-care. Like I never journaled. Now I journal. Now I'm more aware of my needs and wants and my priorities. And that built a lot of confidence. And again, just like reiterating what I mentioned before, I was so like my default mindset was always like, oppress your emotions. Like there's no time for that. You got to hustle. But the fact that now, because like I am more aware of my surroundings, I go through self-coaching, attending the calls, like because I'm surrounded by such an environment that promotes self-care as like that's a need, that's a necessity. It's become my default thought process, which I thought never would ever happen. Like now any choice that comes in, any pressure that I get from my supervisor, like anything that comes in, the first thing I think about, you know what, let me journal about it. Like let me think about it, instead of just like automatically saying yes I'll do it, yes I'll do it. No, it's more of like, you got to slow down, you got to think about it. And that's really what I couldn't express more in the feedback. It's just, you think that you're going to stay in a certain mindset for the rest of your life, but then you start realizing like, no, like I've actually come to the place where like by default, the first thing I think about is like, how do I feel about this? Like, do I need this right now? Yeah. So I'm very grateful about it.
That is such a powerful question to ask yourself. And for anybody listening, whenever you are faced with a decision, just asking yourself that simple question that Anahi just mentioned, how do I feel about this? Is this something I want? It's such a basic thing, but I think as Latinas and like daughters of immigrants, we immediately are thinking about what's in it for my family, what's in it for everyone else, what's going to serve the majority of people. And I think this is like also a perfect segue to go to Anahi. Anahi, welcome to the podcast. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Hi. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. So my name is Anahi. I'm a first generation Mexican American. My current role is a social worker. So I work helping and supporting the immigrant community, specifically unaccompanied minors, which is a passion of mine. Coming from a family of immigrants myself, I struggle a lot as a first gen just because I want to get so much done to help my family at home, but also like financially. And that is why I joined Courage Driven. That was one of the reasons why I joined Courage Driven Latina, was because I was struggling with like setting boundaries for myself. Since I still live with my parents and my siblings, I'm always thinking about them and like trying to help out at the house. So setting boundaries was a difficulty for me. but also I wanted to start a podcast. And so I had attempted to try and like start the podcast on my own. And then I was like, "Ugh, I tried, but I couldn't." I was like, let me, and then I had followed you for a while, and I would listen to your podcast, and it was just like listening to the episodes, it felt very motivating. All the people you bring to your podcast are like women who have achieved so much in their personal life, but also within themselves, and they have changed. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the risk and have nothing to lose. So that's why I joined CDL, and it's been great since then.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about, you said you had tried to start the podcast. What did you try that didn't work?
So I try to basically set goals for myself, like put it on my calendar, but I had already previously not joined, but I bought like a course, or I would do online searching to try and get that podcast out. But I just feel like I wasn't like disciplined enough. I don't know if it was like a mindset thing, because I always struggle with like que va a pensar la gente. Like that was one of the things that I always struggled with, and like putting myself on social media has always been very scary. So just like Areli said, the way I thought about it was like just fear. It was just fear, and I was just scared, and not having anybody motivating me was something that, stopped me from actually getting there. But having CDL and like meeting weekly has been so great, because I feel like I have a community now. Like I'm not just on my own working on something that is scary, but I have other women around me that are like working on like creating a business on their own, like being coaches, just doing scary things. And so that makes me not feel alone.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I think both of you, I think as people are listening to what you've both shared, people can probably resonate so much. Like, Arely, what you mentioned about just like authority figures and automatically saying yes. And Anahi, what you mentioned about like immediately thinking about your family and knowing that you want to help your family get ahead. And the other thing that you mentioned, Arely, about the podcast is like so many times people are like, I just need to know how to do it. But that's why I asked, like, what did you try? Because people think, oh, I just need like a good framework, or I just need the step-by-step, and then I'm going to get it done. But then we get that because we live in an era of information. We're not missing information. We could go Google anything. We could go figure out how to do anything. And I actually think it's so interesting that you joined the program, and the first thing you said is like, actually, my first Courage project is going to be the podcast. And then it actually turned into your first Courage project was more on the confidence path, and how you've been able to still like be there to support your family, but also like fill your own cup and be able to do that. Wait, were you saying that when we were recording or before we were recording? I don't know if you had already shared that. Maybe you shared it before we started recording.
Yeah, I think I said that before. Yeah, like I think I used to like drain myself, like to be like, okay, like I'm out of college, I have a good paying job, I have a fulfilling job, like I have a 401k. So now like let's get to work, and like let's get my parents a 401k, let's get my money in a high yield savings account, like all of that. Like I was starting to do so much, because like right now I feel like I'm at an age or a stage where I'm like, okay, I'm young, I'm living at home, I need to do the best that I can to just to learn, because my parents have always engraved in me to save, and like, but they never knew about like the stock market. And I was like, okay, I just need to figure it out. But I didn't think about like, okay, you need to take care of yourself first, because if you can't fill your cup up, you can't help others. And that's something I learned in my job as well, because I try to give so much to my job emotionally and mentally, that if I don't take care of myself, I can't take care of my family. So like I also during CDL, I feel like I also learned to like take care of myself, but to create habits. Like when I feel drained and I can't help somebody at home, like say no, or like close the door and just, I'm like, I can't do this for you right now. I have to take care of myself, or I need to go work out. Working out has definitely been a part of my life for such a long time, because I enjoy it and it gives me that mental clarity. But yeah, it's my way of coping with like stress, but just in general, it makes me feel good. And not feeling guilty is also something that has helped me like not feeling guilty, because I used to feel so guilty for like saying no, or like telling my parents like, okay, like I can't do this for you. I felt guilty for that. And that's a mindset that's like been a change in my mindset as well.
Yeah, I think it's so funny that so you two were grouped together because you were both free at this time. But as I'm speaking to you both, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was like a perfect combination because you both came in without wanting to set boundaries because you believe that boundaries were pushing people away. And I think what I've seen with both of you is you've learned that when you implement boundaries, it doesn't mean you don't want to help people. It means you do want to help people when you can help them, which actually brings you closer to people, which actually makes you a better employee, a better family member, all of that. And I think the other thing that like I noticed in you both was trying to do everything and then like really allowing yourself to slow down and actually get things done. So Anahi, for you, you've already chosen your podcast name. We have the podcast course inside of the portal. Like now that you've already worked on the initial courage projects, this other podcast is going to be done in no time. It's not going to take forever because it required you to work on the mindset piece and not telling you, oh my gosh, get it done by tomorrow. I think now you're like, oh no, it's going to happen. I just needed to work on these other things before I actually went to go do that. And then for you, Areli, I think also just like your journaling practice and like the self-awareness and really changing the way that you're viewing yourself was something that you needed to do before walking away from your job. And I actually feel like if you would have just quit your job without learning these lessons, I don't know if you would have learned them.
No, that's true. That I agree, because I feel like I would have, again, adding on to what Anahi was saying about guilt. Like I would have felt guilt. I would have felt like it wasn't the right way. Even now, like because I'm setting boundaries with my supervisor, there's a lot of tension going on and a lot of negativity happening. But the Anahi of the past would have not even been able to withstand that, tension that was happening, because she would have been like, no, she's absolutely right. Like I'm causing so much trouble. I'm causing so much of a fuss. Like I can't do this. But now it's like, I understand, like it makes more sense how now I don't fit the job title anymore, because I'm advocating for myself and I'm looking towards what I want. So now that I'm leaving, it's more of like, I'm ending this circle. Yes, maybe it's not because I'm not following what my supervisor wanted at first in terms of like being that perfect yes and like saying all the time, but that's not something that I want right now. Like I'm moving forward towards something that I really want to do and I'm interested in doing. So yeah, I wouldn't have been able to even learn about what I needed, and just having that self-care, that balance of like, I need to refill my cup. Like that's so essential now. Like I don't know how I was able to go on for so long without having any regard of what was my needs or priorities at all. So without having learned those things, having that project of introducing self-care to my life at first, I think I wouldn't been able to, end this job in a good note, because or else I would have just like gone in complete burnout and just like, I don't know, I would be like in a psychiatric ward. I don't know, because I wouldn't know how I would have been able to handle it.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, what I've learned in life so far is that the universe will keep throwing lessons at them until we've learned them, right? It'll just keep coming back. So like you've learned your lesson. So now I'm curious, what's next for you two? Like you're still in the program, you still have months left, and like all of this transformation has already happened. Anahi, we'll start with you. So like what's next? What is your next courage project? What are your goals and aspirations for the next few months?
Well, I definitely want to prioritize launching the podcast, which is my number one priority right now. I have other goals with like learning to invest my money into like properties and stuff. That's another one of my goals. And like also finding out if I want to start my own nonprofit. I'm not trying to rush that, because I feel like I'm at a good stage in my life and I'm happy and I'm fulfilled with where I am now, but I'm not rushing to figure it out. But I really do want to stay in like helping the immigrant community. And I feel like I'm learning so much about myself every single year, and I'm growing as a person. But I think there's just, those are the top 3 things that I have on my list right now.
Love it. Well, we're going to hold you accountable for the podcast. And then I know that my Deli, who's my support coach, gave you some guidance around opening an account for your dad, right? This is what you were mentioning to us before.
Yeah. So I ended up opening it for him already with some guidance from her and then another person. So my parents have their 401k, which I'm so happy about. Now I'm trying to get my brother to get one, even though he's like, I don't need it. But I'm like, you do need it.
He does. Yeah. He'll thank you later. And then lastly, for the nonprofit, have you connected with Flaca yet?
Yes, I have connected with her. I've connected with her and she gave me so much feedback that I am going to take into consideration. So yeah, I think I'm just trying to like, as long as I'm doing something that fulfills me and I'm okay, but also
Yeah.
that's something that I do to also, I guess, do something scary, which is right now doing the podcast. I also signed up for a 5K, which I'm not a runner, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it because I want to do hard things. I feel like doing hard things pushes me to a place where like, there's so much about ourselves that we still don't know. And I think running a 5K has been great. It's been very, very hard, not running, but like training for a 5K has been difficult. So yeah, that's kind of like what's going on in my life right now.
I love that Anahi's just like leaning into courage full blown. She's just like, let's do hard things right now. Let's do the things that scare me. I love it. Anahi, what about for you? Like what's next? Being that you've done the work to like build the habits, change your thoughts. What can we look forward to for you?
So on the same boat of what Anahi was saying about, starting something that's really challenging. So now that I have a better sense of self and more confidence in myself, one of the things I'm working on for sure is sending myself in new environments, because now that I have boundaries at work, it's still a work in process, right? So, I have a fam like my parents and my sister, setting those boundaries as well with them as well, because I feel like that was one thing, because many things that I have that were at work, it came from home, right? So I'm also dealing right now, having that boundary setting with my family members and also with my friends, because I realized that there were many friends that I had that were building on the toxicity that I had on work. So I was reflecting the relationships that I have and say, what is something that I feel like is actually benefiting me now versus, the idea before would have been like, I want to just make everyone happy, so I'll continue this friendship. But if I see that the friendship is harming me, it's better to move forward. So that's one thing as well. But one thing I wanted to mention as well is, besides going on and seeing what my next career goal is, like getting the degree and seeing where I can go to find a job, but now having a better sense of what I don't like and what I do want. Also want to start dating. That's one of my next chapters as well, is like, that's something that it's scary. Like I've been holding off for quite some time just because I, always had something else to do. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. But now that I have the courage to be able to set boundaries with people that just were giving me a really hard time, especially, with my supervisor, I want to just go out there and just like, see what the dating life is like, right? So that's basically my next chapter there. But one thing I also want to just end off there with what I want to do next is, I feel like Courage Driven Latina has helped me start off with self-care. So now I have that introduced in my life, but I feel like I could still grow in terms of advocating more for myself, because I'm at a point where I'm saying no. I'm telling people, like, I'm giving like a silent response saying, you know what, I can't focus on this right now. But one thing that I'm still struggling is asking for what I want, so like, this is my situation now. I can help you, but you know what? I want you to also to help me, which is something that I'm still kind of like, I'm still working on. So that's something that I have right now for the next few months, to be able to feel no guilt or shame for asking for help, because that's something that has been a struggle as well, for myself. But yeah, that's me right now.
I love it. Okay, so a few things. Inside of the Courage Driven Latina 2.0 videos, there's the Courage Cycle, which is all about find clarity, make a decision, take brave action, reflect, and revise. And we go through that cycle for our Courage projects. And I feel like your first version of the Courage project was like the self-awareness piece for you to even figure out what you want. And now the next version of it is being able to ask for what you want. But you first had to go through, what do I want first? And then secondly, on the call 2 nights ago, I don't know if it's because it was like around Valentine's Day or something, but they were like all the coaching was around dating. And then I was like, do we need a dating path? Because we have the confidence path, the content creation path, the career path, and the CEO path. And then I was like, well, how are we going to make dating C? I don't know. The cuddle path? I don't know. I'm kidding. But I think we might just add videos inside of the confidence path, because I think that falls under confidence, right? Like the confidence to put yourself out there, the courage to date, the courage to put yourself out there. So that's something that's like been in the back of my mind. I'm like, I think we're going to need to create some new videos there. But yeah, I think that you two have just shown amazing growth in the way that you like speak to yourself, the way that you show up for yourself, and just like how you're showing up for your lives. So I'm just wondering, is there anything I didn't ask that you want to share with us before I let you two go?
I just want to first, like, for somebody that's a first gen and an older sister, I just want to say that we go through so much. And I'm speaking as somebody who's this person, a first gen and an older sister. And I feel like as somebody that I didn't have a community of women, like especially older women. I didn't have anybody guiding me. I don't have anybody to like show me certain things about life. Like I had to navigate college on my own, FAFSA, all of that, career wise, all of that. And I just feel like it's important for us to find a community or find a group of friends that are like, I can't say go ahead and find people that are older than you, but I feel like finding people that you can like, you feel very comfortable with, or that you can be vulnerable, is very important. Because personally, me, I don't feel like I have anybody that I can go to. And like, I have my mom, I have my parents, I have my siblings, thankfully, but I just feel like they don't understand because they're not in the position that I'm in. And I just want to say to the girls out there that like can relate to what I've said, is like, find a group of people or find somebody that you can lean into whenever you need help. Because I feel like I was holding on to so much for so long, and like having this kind of guidance, having this community has been so valuable in my life that, you know, I'm just so appreciative. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for saying that, because so many of the listeners are the eldest daughter of immigrant parents. And even Jasmine from the program, who was recently on the podcast, like she is also the eldest daughter of immigrant parents. I don't know if you two have connected in the program, but like I'll make the intro for you, because I think you two would have so much to talk about. But yeah, so many people can resonate with what you're saying, of just like they feel like they're leading the tribe of their whole family, but then they feel alone. And it's like, that's so much pressure of like, am I even making the right decision? So thank you for saying that. Areli, how about you? Anything that you would like to share before I let you go?
Well, again, just I really think, like, I feel like when I was listening to your podcast before joining CDL, just because my sister recommended it. And, you know, I was always thinking that I was, you know, that one person in the corner of the earth that just like, I'll never change. So to those people that are listening now, thinking that like, it's possible to change your mindset. And then with that, like you said in the beginning of the podcast, it's just, it changes everything else. Like once you have that like switch, it just makes you feel like your whole life can be lived in a different way. And I feel like it doesn't matter at what time, like what point in time it comes. You know, there are lessons that you learn that you have to go through in order to get somewhere else. But I feel like that's just something I really wanted to mention, that like, if you really think like you're just going to stay stuck, like it's possible to come out of that. So, and I'm really grateful for Courage Driven Latina. Like I'm so grateful.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. See, I'm glad I asked that question, because that was like so much wisdom from both of you to the listeners. So thank you so much. Thank you both for coming on. And also, I know that this was a last minute request, so I just appreciate that you both jumped on so quickly. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for bringing your magic to the program. And it's been such an honor to support you. And I'm looking forward to the next version of your Courage projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. I'm sure there were so many moments that felt so relatable to you, as they were just talking about their experience of being daughters of immigrants, and, you know, the boundaries, the self-care, the authority figures. I mean, it's just very rare, very relatable. So let's go ahead and get into some of the frequently asked questions and just common DMs that I've been getting regarding Courage Driven Latina, so that I can answer any questions that you may have. So the first question I got is, what if I miss a meeting? Like what happens then? Like, what if I can't always make the call times? So no worries, because we actually have a private podcast for everybody inside of Courage Driven Latina. So it's different than this podcast here, Chingona Revolution. The private podcast is where we upload all of the call recordings, because we do have weekly calls, weekly live coaching calls that happen every week on Tuesdays. And then we have monthly business coaching calls that happen on Wednesdays. So let's say that you have like a work meeting, or maybe you're traveling. Don't worry. This is why we also made the program a year long, so that if you miss a few meetings, it's not a big deal. While when the program was 12 weeks, it was so short that if you missed, like if you were traveling or just like had a busy time in your life and you missed 3 meetings, like that was already a big chunk of the program. So if you miss any meetings, no worries, because you can always listen to the private podcast, and that way you can listen while you're on the go. I actually had somebody a few rounds ago who couldn't make the meeting time anytime. She had a work conflict. So what she would do is whenever she was off work and commuting back home, she would listen to the private podcast, and she still got results. So much so that she ended up joining the program again. Okay, the next question is, does this work for me if I do not want to start a business? Definitely. If you do not want to start a business, you can still join Courage Driven Latina. That is why we came up with the Courage Project paths, which are confidence, content creation, career, and CEO. You do not have to take all the paths. You can choose your path. You can work on 2 if you'd like, but no worries. You do not have to start a business. That is not a requirement. This is not a business coaching program. This is a coaching program to help you execute the project that you choose. It doesn't matter what project you choose, because you are going to follow the Courage framework. We're still going to help you with getting out of your own way, with taking action, with moving forward, with problem solving. But the project gets to be the project you pick. Somebody else asked, what if I don't want to post on social media? Same answer as what I just said, right? If you want to post on social media, amazing. We have the TikTok course. We have the Launch Your Podcast in 90 Days course inside. We also have the social media workshop in there. We also have an AI workshop in there to help you repurpose content using AI. But if you don't want to post on social media, you simply won't watch the videos in that track. It's not a requirement. You are not incentivized to take one path over another path. You get to choose your path. Next question. What if I don't have a ton of time? I work full time and I'm a mom. The beautiful thing about a program like Courage Driven Latina is that rather than making you do more, we actually help you with doing less, specifically when it comes to your Courage project, because your Courage project is so specific, and we also make it really clear what it is that you're not going to work on. So even though you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have a lot of time, this is going to take up so much time, it's actually one of those programs that really helps you save time, because you're going to stop doing things that are no longer that aren't a priority, right? Because sometimes we waste our time on things that aren't actually priorities. So the Courage Project Plan really has you get really focused on what your goals are. And we even make you identify what you're not going to spend your time on, so that you don't get distracted doing things that aren't contributing to your goal. So I would say you need a maximum of like 2 hours a week for Courage Driven Latina. Maybe like the first week you join to watch some of the videos, you might need like 3 hours that you can do over the weekend. Honestly, I don't even think that much. So I would say about 2 hours a week is the amount of time that you would need. The next question is, what if I don't know what my Courage project is? The first 3 videos inside of the curriculum are specifically focused on helping you find clarity and pick a Courage project. So you don't already have to come with an idea. We help you clarify the idea that you have, and we help you. I mean, this program used to be called Purpose Driven Latina. It was all about purpose. It was all about helping you find clarity. But then what I learned was that it's not just about discovering what you want to do. It's like having the courage to go after it. And that's why we ended up renaming it to Courage Driven Latina. Okay, another question is, how can I justify this to my husband/partner? A few different ways. So the first is, if you run a business, this is a business expense. If you don't run a business, it's still an educational write-off, just like tuition or like any type of education would be. The other way is you can say something along the lines of, that dream you keep hearing me talk about? Well, this program is specifically geared towards helping me make that a reality. And you know how important that is to me, and I really want to give myself a chance. Another thing you can say is, I know that you don't fully get it, but this is important to me and I'm asking for your support, because, there's things you don't get about your partner. Like maybe they're super into cars and you're like, I know nothing about this. Like, why are you spending so much money on like a car part? But you're still supportive. So just asking for that support. The other thing I would say is that the data shows that after joining Courage Driven Latina, you're going to be nicer to yourself, because 100% of the people that have gone through Courage Driven Latina say that the way they view themselves has positively changed. And you're also going to have a community of women who get it. So therefore, you're going to have more confidence. And this means that you're going to have fewer expectations of your partner, because you have this support system, because now you're positively viewing the way that you see yourself. And rather than looking for at them for validation and for other expectations, you get to validate yourself. And now you have this community who's going to have your back. The second to last question is this a course or is it live coaching? How is it that we get support? So really good question. It is live coaching. So we have weekly live coaching calls, one business call per month. You also get access to the brand new Courage Driven Latina videos. This is like Courage Driven Latina 2.0. Even if you've been in the program before, it is a completely revamped, new and improved version of the program. You also get access to in-person events that are client-only events. You're going to also get Slack support, which is our messaging tool, so you can ask for coaching at any time. And then there's also new worksheets, and you get immediate access to all of these videos as well as the worksheets. And then you also get that private podcast. So yes, there is a course version, but there's a course portion, but there's also live coaching. So you can ask for help with anything that you're struggling with regarding to your Courage project on the weekly calls. And last question is, I want to join, but I'm already in another program. So what I love about Courage Driven Latina is that it is not the program that you join and it's like you can't do anything else. I actually had somebody join a few rounds ago who had just signed up for a finance course, like an investing course, and she was having a hard time finishing that course. So we just made the first version of her Courage project finishing the financial course. And then once she really got the investing down, which obviously the sooner you invest, the better it is, then she was able to work on other projects. So what I love about Courage Driven Latina is it is really this program to help you take action on your goals. And if part of that goal is working on if you're already in a program, we're going to help keep you accountable so that you execute that as well. So rather than saying, oh my gosh, you're already in something, so don't do it, how is this going to complement what you're doing? Because this program is going to ensure that you show up for yourself and that you finish what you've started. Okay, y'all, to learn more, go to couragedrivenlatina.com. Remember, the doors are closing tomorrow. So make sure that you secure your spot, because the doors will not open for months. And if you keep delaying on your dreams, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? By the next time we open doors, you could already have a fully executed project. Even if you don't know exactly what that project is yet, as I mentioned, we're going to help you figure that out. Okay, y'all, I will see you next week, and I hope you have a fabulous, fabulous week ahead. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.